Hola a todas, a todos, a todes que nos están viendo nuevamente ya en el último panel público de la semana en Conecta. Estamos muy felices, muy contentos de compartir con ustedes toda esta información, experiencia, maneras de aproximarnos también a la industria internacional gracias a espacios de encuentro como este que nos permiten también apoyar nuestras obras, tanto chilenas como latinoamericanas, con el fin de aumentar las audiencias, ¿no? De encontrar espacios de reflexión que nos permitan acercarnos a nuevos públicos. En Conecta estamos muy contentos porque invitados internacionales y nacionales se han dado el tiempo para compartir con nosotros su experiencia y con el fin también de empezar a conectar, ¿no? Que es lo que nos llama en este encuentro, a conectarnos entre nosotros, no solamente a nivel de industria, sino también a nivel personal, ya que las barreras se nos han hecho muy grandes, pero la virtualidad nos ha permitido también encontrarnos incluso con más personas, con más invitados que si hubiese sido presencial. Así que estamos contentos y contentas todo el equipo de Conecta, y desde ya agradecemos a todos quienes nos han acompañado en estos días. Estamos felices porque hoy día terminamos, digamos, el panel, los paneles con grandes invitadas que nos van a contar un poco de un espacio también de apertura para el documental internacional, del que poco sabemos y con el cual queremos empezar a crear relaciones, queremos empezar a crear puentes. Nos parece importante también establecer ciertas uniones, no solamente a nivel latinoamericano regional, sino también a nivel del continente completo. Llegar también a conquistar espacios como lo es Estados Unidos, para que también podamos aprovechar el nivel de audiencia latinoamericana, incluso que se encuentra allá, que nos va a permitir también abrir nuestras fronteras. Y por eso, en este panel, está con nosotros Dana Merwin y Teng, que representan a la Asociación Internacional de Documentales, IDA, que nos van a contar un poco más sobre el trabajo que viene haciendo la asociación, las posibilidades y los beneficios que tiene ser parte de la asociación, y también todo el trabajo y los distintos programas que tienen de apoyo para la no ficción. Estamos muy contentos de que nos acompañen en esta oportunidad. Nuevas amigas, bueno, Po hace ya un tiempo viene siendo nuestra amiga en otros espacios, pero ahora tiene una gran incorporación a la Asociación Internacional de Documentales, así que estamos felices. Y Dana, una nueva amiga que hemos estado haciendo esta semana y que esperamos sea el fruto y el inicio de una gran relación en adelante. Así que muchas gracias a ambas por estar con nosotros. Y para guiar un poco esta conversación y para también nutrirnos de la experiencia, de las dudas, del cuestionamiento, de entender un poco cómo funciona la Asociación Internacional de Documentalistas, nos va a acompañar en la moderación María Elena, productora chilena, a cargo de grandes producciones de documental, también con importante trabajo en la ficción, que nos va a acompañar en el camino de este panel para ir conociendo un poco más sobre la asociación. Muchas gracias, María Elena, por acompañarnos. Y también, antes de empezar y entregar el espacio para la conversación misma, agradecer a Paulina Azar y Paulina Cortés, que nos están acompañando hoy día nuevamente en la interpretación en la lengua de señas chilena, que van a estar para poder ampliar también nuestro acceso a distintas audiencias, y a Felipe, que está en la traducción simultánea a las personas que van a unirse en el Zoom webinar. Recuerden también que Conecta continúa la próxima semana con otras actividades públicas, y para los proyectos seleccionados comienza la ronda de reuniones individuales. Así que no quiero alargarme más, quiero dejar el tiempo para que pueda haber una conversación fluida entre nuestras invitadas y que nos permita conocer un poco más sobre IDA. Así que los dejo en tus manos, María Elena. Muchas gracias, que estén muy bien.
Hola, buenas tardes. Bueno, hola Po, hola Dana. Muchas gracias, Diego, por presentarnos. Yo voy a hablar en inglés y Paulina va a ir traduciendo. I would like, somebody told me that you have been watching The Mole Agent. And I would like to have your opinion of why this is this very, very Chilean movie. It's a US co-production, but it can be so international.
The Mole Agent is such an endearing film. I mean, when you see the film, it's amazing in terms of its observational style, and it conveys so much. Sergio as a character and what he's been tasked to do, which is put into this elderly care facility to investigate, what's happening there for a client, and the themes that come through in the film is something that, and you may be a Chilean, you may be an American, you may be some from, I don't know, anywhere in India. I think it's not hard to relate to. I think it is really stellar observational filmmaking. I just got a chance to watch it recently, Maria Elena, and and I'll say this: it's no surprise that this film has been doing really well in the awards campaigns, and also that it is the official is the film officially that Chile is submitting for the international Oscars. And so it's great that this partnership between an American producer and production company and Chilean documentary filmmakers. So the hope is to see more, because from The Mole Agent and so many other films even before it, it's so obvious that Chilean films have so much to offer, not just the United States, but the world.
Dana, and in this cross-country collaboration, what IDA can give Chilean documentary filmmakers?
Yeah. Thank you, Maria and Elena. Thank you to Connecta. This is my first time attending, so hopefully next year, maybe I will be there in the warmth as opposed to cold California, where I am today. So IDA is how we refer to it for short, IDA. We are a 30-year plus member supported organization. We have other funders, but we are a membership organization, which means we are only as good and as strong as our members. When you become a member, no matter where you are, whether in the US or Chile or Venezuela, you have the opportunity to participate in our online classes. We have lots of resources, master classes with established filmmakers, editors, producers. We also have workshops. I teach a grant writing workshop that speaks to emerging filmmakers and established filmmakers. And we are in conversation with our grantees because IDA is also a funder. We have 2 funds that we manage, and they support different filmmakers, some US, some international, lots of different criteria for those funds. IDA also has a huge global gathering called Getting Real. And as a member, if it were in person, you would get a discounted ticket to that event. It's held every 2 years. So in 2020, it was held online, and it was free across the board for everyone. It was free, and we had 3,000 people attend from over 50 countries, which is amazing. And that conference is actually archived this year on YouTube, which I will share in the Zoom chat, but maybe someone else can post it to our other platforms that are watching today. So welcome to those viewers. So in addition to education, networking, building bridges between filmmakers from all countries, we also do advocacy. So as a member, you are closer in collaboration if you have any needs from IDA to advocate for you. We've had experience with filmmakers having trouble entering the US. We've made appeals to our government to help with visas for filmmakers. So in addition to supporting you with collaborators, with advocacy, we also have awards, which was already spoken about today. We have a screening series that also helps give voice to filmmakers and support their distribution. And then we have another aspect called fiscal sponsorship, which is also something we can post a link to that's a little more intricate, complex on how it can help you raise funds internationally. So many different facets that you can engage in depending on what you need as a maker.
And if I may, adding on to what Dana said in terms of like IDA's prestigious awards, The Mole Agent was shortlisted for an IDA Features Awards last year. And it was also part of the screening series. And so on our site and on YouTube, you can actually watch the director for The Mole Agent speak with also the producer, the American producer. And so IDA is a place that facilitates all of that and connects those bridges.
I saw it, I watched it, and it was a very interesting interview to Maite Alberdi, where she talks about what was the initial idea of what began to be the Mole Agent, and very interesting interview. So I recommend you to see it. Also, well, Paul, you also are an award-winning documentary filmmaker also, and I would like to know, what do you think about that Chile and Venezuela have as for this year Oscars, 2 documentary films as best films selection. What do you think that says to us?
I was muted. I have unmuted. So I think it's really exciting. In my past life, which was just my past work life, it was just a few weeks ago, I was a documentary commissioner for an international broadcaster, and I looked after Latin America. And so now in my new role, idea, it brings me so much joy. And I'm so glad that there are 2 very strong documentaries, The Mole Agent and Once Upon a Time in Venezuela, that's in the festivals and awards campaigns. I think it sends a very strong message to the industry about the strength and these amazing stories and narratives and perspectives. I think for so long, a lot of documentaries are always, in terms of its perspective and gaze, it's either from the northern hemisphere in the Americas, or the European perspective. So to have 2 very, very strong films, The Mole Agent and Once Upon a Time in Venezuela, is just absolutely fantastic. And hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to see more. And organizations like Chile Doc and Interconecta building all those bridges. So I see, the future for cross-country collaboration is great.
50 years ago, all the United States know about Latin America was made by United States documentary filmmakers. You can see many stories narrated. Nowadays, we have the opportunity that local documentary filmmakers tell their stories. And I would like to ask you what it means to be international for a documentary film.
What does it mean to be international for a documentary film? I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
Because now we have the possibility that local documentary films flew to other countries, okay?
Yeah.
To the north, okay? And the idea is that documentary filmmakers, I think, must tell the stories they really know. They really are involved, not looking for stories that are out of their cultural
experience, no?
Spirit, yes.
Yeah, I think that is so essential in documentary filmmaking, right? Nuance, perspective, gaze, and so it's essential for films. You know, I think it's very important for films. You know, where it's from the country that it's from, to have filmmakers. You know, definitely directors, producers from those countries. It can't always be, you know, somebody parachuting in. And if it is somebody coming in, then it has to be a proper collaboration. And so I think if you look back at this past year, which has been a very difficult year because of the pandemic, right? But it has also brought, you know, speaking to Latin American filmmakers that I've worked with and I still work with, it has also been, even though it's a challenging time, but a time of great opportunity, because it was not that easy anymore for, say, filmmakers from the Northern Hemisphere or from the United States to go to Latin America. So then they actually had to collaborate as well. And so, you know, it's like in a moment of crises, you also see new ways of working and new opportunities. And I think that is essential moving forward. Proper collaborations, if there is going to be a collaboration between filmmakers of different countries, and not that of one country sort of enforcing its perspective and gaze on the other. And no, I mean, yeah, that Latin American filmmakers have offered so much for so long, and there's no reason why it can't cross over the other way.
I mean, to add to that, if I may, in, you know, this year at Getting Real, having the conference online, some very frank, some very honest call outs and conversations were had between makers about their experience with production companies. And I think because a lot of executives were able to listen to these conversations and to really see some of the misgivings that have happened in collaborations and how this can't continue and how it can improve. I think that was a great, I mean, we talk about accessibility in terms of geography, but in many cases, these people in power, whether they are, you know, platforms or funders, there was no way to hide from the conversation this year. And that's in part to a lot of brave filmmakers who are speaking out. And that is where change is becoming possible, and to learn from these grievances. So we are encouraged to continue these conversations from Getting Real, but also to put them into practice with funders asking specifically, what is your relationship to this community, whether it's domestically or international. Lots of changes are being made even in our application processes with funds and funders understanding the relationships with filmmakers and their films. So it's we appreciate those efforts, and yes, it is international in scope. Local filmmakers no longer have to be just fixers, or they should be collaborators.
And what are the most big gaps that you find now in the documentary film producing system? It is about race. It is about what?
You know, I think it's a combination of things. You know, race definitely plays a huge factor, right? If you're looking domestically in the United States and also internationally, I think, you know, for a long time and still currently, Black, Indigenous filmmakers and people of color in different parts of the world still don't get the same access and opportunities. So it was so amazing, actually, in the last Getting Real, which was online, to see a lot of these conversations sort of out in the open. And you know, it's a long time coming, and so, you know, it really took something so horrific like the murder of a Black man, George Floyd, for these conversations to be had in the open publicly, when a lot of within Black communities, Indigenous communities, and communities of color, we've been having these conversations among filmmakers and non-filmmakers. So it would be really important to see it also expand internationally, because then you go into the whole, you know, colonized view, you know, colonized perspectives, and storytelling. So I think it can only grow from here. So I think race definitely a huge factor, class, emerging. It's also very hard for emerging filmmakers anywhere in the world, be you in the United States, be in Chile, or in Latin America, to sort of break through from emerging to go into mid-career. It's still hard for even mid-career filmmakers to break through, to continuously, be able to fund themselves, to do the important work, that to do the documentary work continuously. So there are so many challenges, but to summarize, yes, race, emerging, and class and so these are all big issues in the documentary world, big challenges.
I think when Poe and I speak, there is a perception that these problems don't exist for U.S. makers, and that we have the expression, the grass is always greener on the other side. So, we humbly acknowledge that, the makers in the U.S. struggle with those issues just as much.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think that's something that like country to country, this is something that we can learn from each other, because they're like, when you look at Chile, and when I look at Chile, there's so much going on with the Mapuche conflict, for example. Are they Mapuche filmmakers telling their stories, with what's going on and then the whole the class conflict that's been happening in the streets of Santiago, that was in last year and the year before. So who's actually even telling the stories within Chile as well? It's also interesting for us to learn. And in the United States, we can learn from Chile. Chile can learn from the United States. And hopefully through organizations like Chile Doc, Conecta, IDA, will be able to bridge those worlds.
And the documentary film community is talking about these gaps at the United States. Are you talking about in your country about these gaps?
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of gaps. It's a work in progress. I think it's something that we have to strive for. I think many filmmakers and like all over the world, what we're really trying to strive for collectively is equity.
Yeah, to add to that, so with the International Documentary Association, we acknowledge that we are striving to put the I in IDA more, right? We're based in Los Angeles, but our resources are still growing, and we rely on, even in the US, regional collaborators. I want to acknowledge Firelight Media is an incredible organization that's based in New York, but their funding and their resources for Black, Indigenous, people of color right now, the support that they've given through outreach and resources has been tremendous, especially in the year of COVID. But when COVID began, we collaborated with Firelight and with another public funder in the US, ITVS, which is related to POV, who I know Nicole is here with POV. But as a trio, we gathered to do listening sessions and information sessions to help explain to filmmakers how they could get COVID relief. So to just do it alone, like this is obviously in a pandemic, we've come to understand mutual aid, which says the government is not going to save us. And we will rely on other filmmakers, other organizations. And I think, the pandemic exposed these gaps, which the community was already talking about, how to be sustainable and how to have difficult conversations. But the pandemic, along with George Floyd's murder, really exposed those in a greater way. So I think, obviously these conversations are happening in the US, but we are so excited to listen and to still visit other countries And these conferences really help us to listen to what regional, whether it's regional in the US or whether it's regional to a specific country. That's why these sessions are important for us. So we're so excited to meet with individual filmmakers, I know next week as well.
And Dana, is it possible for a Chilean or Latin American documentary filmmaker to submit for IDA fund?
That's a great question. Yes and no. I wish it were just one or the other. I will put in, once again, I will put in the chat the links to our funds that will give the criteria. There are two funds we manage. One is the Enterprise Fund, and it must have a US producer or director that is a citizen, resident, or has a tax ID. So in that fund, it could be a co-production, but you do need an entity, a US person affiliated with the project. And the other fund is the Para Lorenz Fund, and that is open to international filmmakers. But every year there's a new theme or focus. So in 2020, the theme was criminal justice. So this year we haven't announced the theme, but we will post that to our website as well. And then the third thing, if you're already shaking your fist about the specificity to these funds, we manage a global directory of grants and fellowships. So if these two funds that we manage, you don't fit the criteria for, there's hundreds of other opportunities. And I will put that in the chat as well. But if you go to our website, there is a directory that Diego, I want to shout out Diego, has spoken well of too. So I have a Diego endorsed endorsement for that part of our website. So yes, not to get into the specifics, but it depends on the fund.
And our plan too at IDA is to grow these funds so that it can also, further assist and aid filmmakers from all over the world, including Latin America.
And one of the reasons that the fund was specific to U.S. needs was, or U.S. filmmakers, was some of the legal resources. We've been trying to bridge the gap between how filmmakers identify as documentary filmmakers and journalists. And that came about in partnership with one of our funders, the MacArthur Foundation. So how could we make better journalists into better filmmakers and better filmmakers into better journalists? And Poe can speak to that with a lot of her experience and how we know every country protects its journalist or doesn't protect its journalist in different ways. So that is also one of our things we strive to do within not only the US, but outside of it.
Voy a decirle a la gente que está escuchando que pueden poner sus preguntas en el chat. Si tienen preguntas que quieran hacer a Dana o a Po, pueden ponerlas en el chat. I was telling the people that is with us that they can ask through the chat any question they wish to make you. Tell me, and also in Getting Real, what were the topics and the trends that you see, the new trends that appear in your conversations with those 3,000 documentary related people?
Dana, you should go for it. You know what? Actually, I'm going to talk about 2018, and Dana, you're going to talk, if you could talk about 2020, because I feel like 2018, I was there physically for Getting Real, and a lot of it still continued on and evolved for 2020. So when I was there in 2018, the theme, the large theme, overarching theme for the conference was decolonizing docs.
Oh.
And that was, you know, it was certainly very, very powerful. And it got many decision makers, key decision makers, thinking. I think they started to think a lot about, you know, the issues of the gaze and the colonial gaze domestically and also internationally. And then Dana, maybe you could speak about 2020 and the conversations that were had.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to build off of that by dropping an article in the chat as well. Hopefully, like I said, our other platforms, you can either Google it or they'll pass it along. There was a beautiful article from Sonia Childress and Natalie Bullock Brown about accountability. And I'm sharing it in the chat because, once again, I don't think it is a specific to US conversation that everyone is having. But it's very existential sometimes to talk about power and accessibility. But one thing that Getting Real did was create working groups. So we're not only saying at Getting Real, like, these are the problems. What's really impactful, filmmakers are gathering in working groups that then you can extend to outside of, you know, your known entities. So what Natalie and I think Sonia did in this beautiful article is pose questions back to makers and people in power and gave us real direction. And I think what's been wonderful about Getting Real in the past is how groups have come out of Getting Real from different talks or speaking engagements. One of the other powerful panels I attended was a group of African makers and talking about how could reparations be handled. And one of the things that came up was archival footage. You know, why do Native filmmakers have to buy back archival footage from, you know, maybe something that happened in their own country because it had been filmed and commercialized by another entity. And so that idea has sprung out of Getting Real, which I think is massive, because we all know as filmmakers, the archival footage can be so expensive. Which is something IDA also works with its members on, as we offer discounts for Getty Images. So if you're a member, congratulations, Maria Elena, if you're a member and you are open to getting a discount because you're an IDA member when you get ready for those massive Getty image collections. So I think the range of it, from, you know, very big ideas that come out about accessibility and power and sustainability to even more actionable items on how can we help filmmakers with archival resources.
Yeah.
During we are almost 1 year staying at home. In March, it will be 1 year. Okay, so and one of the big problems has been the theatrical distribution. How documentary films were distributed during this year in the United States?
Wow. You know, I think people had to be very creative with their distribution. You know, I think there were, I speaking to filmmakers who have films all in the awards race and the festival circuit, and, you know, some have tied up with local theaters, some have, you know, it's really all over the place. You know, yeah, everybody is trying to figure out. I think 2020 was a year of figuring out how to make this work, how to have, can you do online? Can you geo-block? Can you tie with a local theater? Can you split ticket sales 50-50? How do you build communities? How do you get good conversations now that they're not live? You see a lot of online Q&As, a lot of you know, talks, speaker series online. So it was really, Maria Elena, it was like all over the place, because it was a time of experimentation. But, you know, there were also so many opportunities and doors that were opened as a result, because for some festivals and some screenings, like, more people were able to watch certain films more than ever. than if it was just in a physical location. So it really came down to the producers and the directors, filmmakers, on how creative and what was a good fit for their film, because different films had very different lives.
It was messy. That's all I was going to add. It was very messy. It was very messy. You know, my heart broke for some of the filmmakers early on. You know, Tribeca was a festival in spring, and South by Southwest, which Jim is here, I think, with the festival. You know, those filmmakers early on trying to navigate it, and obviously the years that they had put into their film and the expectations that every filmmaker had for their film is. It was very hard to watch. And one of the things we did at IDA was we had listening sessions. So we gathered filmmakers every other week. One of my colleagues was having these sessions. And so it was community driven. People were sharing resources, once again, like this mutual aid of, because communication was so hard, things were changing so quickly. And it was like, what do I trust? What do I, do I trust what the festival's telling me? What is your experience? And I think that is something that will continue to happen in year 2, and how we at IDA can help facilitate filmmakers to come together in a space. The word safe is used a lot, right? What is a safe space for filmmakers? And I think we're able to create those spaces so they don't worry about, if I say something about this festival, will that get back to them? And so that's something that collectively we try to listen to all sides, right? Listen to the filmmaker, but also help the festivals and kind of bridge those gaps. So hoping 2020, as we know, Sundance is starting next week online for the first time, which is amazing. And, all those films will be seen, like Poe said, the accessibility of your film no longer being limited to such a inaccessible place, right? And now the potential, like what will that mean to those filmmakers? So it's exciting. I think we even said about Getting Real, how can we maintain that accessibility of gathering 3,000 people, virtually when we do return to, theaters or festivals.
And so maybe the pandemic has been an opportunity to create a new audience for documentary films.
Absolutely. New audiences, new relationships, new partnerships between directors from different countries, producers, directors from different countries. I don't know whether it will ever be the same again. And maybe it shouldn't be the same again, because was it equitable? Was it fair before? Maybe we need to change, and maybe that's what it takes. It takes a pandemic, to grow opportunities for local filmmakers in Latin America, for Latin American filmmakers to say, no, I don't want to be treated as a assistant director, assistant producer. I'm a director in my own right. Like maybe this is what it takes. But time will tell, and we shall see. But I think a lot of positive groundwork out of necessity was done in 2020 and leading into 2021, and so I'm hopeful. I don't know. Are you hopeful, Maria Elena?
Yes, I'm tired, but I'm hopeful.
You're tired.
Oh yes, I would like to be in a table with you, not near, physically near, okay? I'm tired of being physically separated.
Right? In the box.
Okay? Yes, in box, yes. But, well, we hope that this bring changes, good changes, for everybody, and also for documentary filmmaking. And as your IDA is looking for Latin America, and it's also, for example, looking at Asia, at Africa. Because Africa for us is I think that we need to put more attention on Africa. You know, what is happening in your experience? For example, in Getting Real, do you have African documentary filmmakers?
Yes, there was a wonderful panel that convened different makers. I could speak about one of our films we supported financially is a film called Testament, which is focusing on how the history of colonization in Kenya has been controlled by British storytellers. And that includes the violence and the mass graves, and this film is made in collaboration with a co-director in Kenya, and the directors spoke directly to the challenges of making that film. And so yes, I mean, giving any filmmaker the platform to connect with other filmmakers, but letting them speak to that is giving that, is amplifying those voices. So yes, absolutely. And I know, and not, they have their own festivals and conferences that are incredible. And I think that's where IDA continues to, at least in my opinion, we don't come in as being the end all be all. We are not the savior. It is a matter of collaborating with regional organizations just like Connecta. How can we support the work that's happening on the ground? So similar to filmmakers in any country, their needs are always different. So for us, it is, like I said, it is really listening and saying like, okay, maybe we don't have the resources, but let's collaborate and let's partner. And I think that's what's so exciting for me and Poe to be here today is to put that hand out and say, let's be stronger and grow stronger, for makers. So call us.
Yeah. What will you recommend an emerging or established documentary filmmaker that want to have networking with the United States? What will you recommend?
Yeah, I was listening to we were talking about The Mole Agent, and watching the IDA hosted a conversation with the producers that were from the US and the filmmakers from Chile. And they met through a networking event in New York, Tribeca All Access. And so, that is, I think making a film is holistic, no matter where you are. And I think, we tell filmmakers, it is going to these conferences, it's going to these festivals. The more you talk about your film, but also just relationships. I don't think anyone wants to feel like you're only talking to them because what can they do for you? So I think, when I meet filmmakers in the one-on-one meetings, it's introduction, right? As an artist, maybe I can't support this film, but maybe the next. So I think anytime, that's my advice to emerging makers. As you attend these virtual events, we often also get asked, how do I find a producer? It is sometimes like dating. You will connect with some people more than others. And it's still okay to reach out to people and say, I really like what you're doing. I'm curious. I think the more you can lead with curiosity, the further it will take you, no matter what you're doing. But I think it's just, it's juggling a lot. I mean, I know filmmakers have to wear so many hats, but being curious and finding different places to connect with collaborators and to speak about your film. I don't think there is just one thing. Poe, do you want to?
And to add to that, my first introduction to IDA was a proper introduction was actually as a broadcaster and documentary commissioner for Al Jazeera English. And so it was a 2018 Getting Real. And because we were sponsors, I had a couple of tickets and we brought some filmmakers from Latin America, from Colombia, and someone also came from Mexico. And you know, I was with that. We were all together, and we were in these amazing master classes. And I was just speaking to one of them recently, Alejandro Bernal from Colombia, and we were just reminiscing on how amazing Getting Real 2018, the physical one, the online one was great too last year, 2020. But it was such a great place to just exchange ideas. And just to meet makers, makers in the U.S., international makers, and find ways to collaborate. Because as Dana mentioned, if it's not going to work out for the current project, it might work out for projects down the line. And in the 2020 Getting Real, there was I think it was a session or a convening of indigenous filmmakers from all over the world. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to attend that, but I knew some folks who attended it, and they absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and only to add to that, there will be a lot of no's along the way, you know, and I think that's when I talk to other filmmakers, established, or, you know, they've been doing it longer, that's the one thing I always bring back, is that there will be walls, there will be roadblocks, but keep going. You know, if it's a film that means something to you, then it doesn't matter who is saying no, because you're finding a way. So I think that no matter where you are in your career, that, you know, what does success mean to you, you know, and I don't think that's the same for everyone.
Here we have a question from Sergio Estrada. He asked how a local documentary film association can get in touch with IDA.
I'll be sure to leave all our contact with Diego at Conecta, and just reach out to us, or through talk as well. That's also possible. So.
And also he asked if IDA work in different countries than the United States for documentary film makers of in other countries, or you are centered in the United States?
We could be better. I think we are based, our brick and mortar is based in Los Angeles. Our organizational size, our staff size is about 15 to 20. So the international aspect that we support is often through travels. So we don't have, you know, regional headquarters in different places. So it's very important for us to connect with filmmakers and organizations through events like this. In the past, all the staff would have been flying all over to meet filmmakers and to meet with different distributors and funders and really facilitate those, whether it's in pitch sessions or work in progress sessions, which has been such an honor to participate in this week. So for us, it's that, you know, we're often, you know, asked by an organization to attend, you know, their event, but we're also constantly looking for new partners. So that's what puts the I in international, is really being able to travel and to do these type events, which I think aren't going away anytime soon. So building, like we said, upon the accessibility that the pandemic has given us. So.
And to add to that, you know, we are growing internationally, and which is why I'm so honored that Diego and Paula invited us to come to Chile Doc Conecta, because, you know, over the years, we've known each other for a while now, and over the years, I've seen how Chile Doc and Conecta has grown, and to see the Chilean documentary delegation at all these various festivals. So to come back and to be able to have IDA at Conecta this year is certainly very special for us. So thank you.
How do you think that the big platforms as Netflix, Amazon, HBO, whatever, Disney, are influencing the documentary films or documentary series?
Do you want to go for that one, Dana?
Yeah.
Or I think they're certainly even within the United States. I mean, they're certainly the big funders. So it does create a lot of opportunities for filmmakers that are established, and they've made a serious push in many parts in Latin America, I believe, in Brazil, in Mexico, in Colombia. So I'm sure it influences in a big way, in terms of series and even shorts and features as well.
I would only add to that to say that I think there's still a great frustration among a lot of makers to understand to ask for more transparency on how those relationships work, and how do you connect with different distributors, whether they are platforms or broadcasters. So I think that's something that we constantly strive to support, is trying to facilitate more transparency between the platforms, which are also, very data driven, depending on maybe, with Netflix, right? Where what country you reach and what are you programming? So it's something that I think could definitely grow more with, between filmmakers and distributors.
I think that Teledoc or IDA can help a lot if you push to create cross-producers collaboration. Because the thing is that normally accustomed to not to share the information of what they have with their big clients, So the only way, I have learned that the only way to break the power of these big corporations is sharing information. So collaboration is the first thing to promote, I think, in between filmmakers and producers, because it's the only way to have the information you need to do the best negotiations. That's what I have learned. And I don't know, what do you think about?
That's you're echoing transparency. That's how I feel about every facet, right? Budgets, sales. How do we keep filmmakers from feeling the scarcity? That they're competing against each other, right? I think any instance we can prevent that. Right, that it makes you stronger. Yes, please, Maria and Elena. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that local associations and worldwide associations have they can do possible that, because we will never have the big corporations to be transparent. Never. So I think that we have to work in that. Transparency, promoting collaboration and transparency.
Yeah, one of the groups that came out of Getting Real was the Documentary Producers Alliance, DPA, and they have I don't have their website, but everyone DPA. They are growing. They're still very new relative to a lot of groups. But one of the workshops that they held at Getting Real was sessions to explain what they're calling like the waterfall of how to inform producers of different financing. They've also been very instrumental in helping with credits, as filmmakers are often they feel like they're selling executive producer credits, right? So they've been very essential in helping bridge the gap between producers and distributors, but also collectively helping producers understand, what options, and with knowledge, there comes the power. So that is an organization that came really out of Getting Real in some facets and continues to grow very fast. Yeah.
We have 5 more minutes, so I will ask Dana and Paul to tell us what they would like to say about how we can do more meaningful partnerships and conversations. What are the conditions that meaningful conversations and partnerships have to have?
I think in terms of as an organization, institutional partnerships are so essential. Like the partnerships between organizations like IDA, Chile Doc Conecta, so essential. If we're going to bridge and have proper conversations about equity, about transparency, about about all these things, then we need proper institutional partnerships and institutions to facilitate these conversations and bring people together. So I think that is really essential. And when you talk about bringing people together, filmmakers, all sorts of filmmakers, emerging, mid-career, advanced, put them all together in one room. Black, Indigenous, people of color, put them all in one room. And some of these conversations are going to be very difficult. Some are, but a lot of good things can come out of it. And what we've learned in the past year, it doesn't even have to be physical. Hopefully one day we can all be together in Santiago. But till then, we can do this on Zoom. So yeah. And so yeah, I think institutional partnerships and funding as well. We're trying to grow our grants program as well. So that's another thing. And we'll see. There's so many possibilities, but the goal really is to serve documentary filmmakers. So we shall see what happens.
Dana,
I would echo that. I think we learn so much from listening and collaborating. As you said, Maria Elena, it's that transparency that will make us stronger. And I think, admitting where we want to grow, where we see the potential to grow, but also being called out on from the filmmakers on what are we missing. And I think I would like to acknowledge our executive director, Simon Kilmurray, who's been with the organization now 5 years and has been such a strong advocate for filmmakers everywhere. And he's departing from IDA this year. So we're very sad to see him go and very excited to see what he does next. So there's so much potential. He has left us with such a legacy and so much room to grow. So we're very excited to see who the next executive director will be and what collaborations will come from that.
Do you think that fiction and documentary film are getting near? Because we used to have a very drastic separation between factual and fiction. What do you think about this?
Well, two things. I think we are learning and finding that even in the financial models with narrative filmmakers, there needs to be more transparency. Like how can documentary film also use some of the strategies with fiction narrative film? So I think that is something that is starting to connect more. And then yes, in artistically, stylistically, what is often called the hybrid form is thriving and is very exciting. There's a lot of festivals in the US. I know that there's a festival called True Faults Film Festival in Missouri that cultivates those types of film that has that blurring of fiction and nonfiction. So it's a very exciting time. It's also interesting because we do champion journalism in our fund. So even the ethics of that is often in question, but that only makes things stronger. So it is a very exciting time. Oh.
No, I feel like nothing more to add. Yeah, it's just an exciting time, and it's just as long as it doesn't mislead, I think, and it's accurate, it doesn't mislead, and the way it was done was ethical. But there are many gray areas. to be explored. And you know, we explore these gray areas in the stories, right? In these individual stories in our films, and of course, we're going to have to explore these gray areas in the making as well. So yeah, but we're all going to do this together. And yeah, I think that the problem always has been when we operate in silos and we don't have the answers, and there's no one that we can reach out to. And so if institutions can give the support, then it is amazing, you know. So it is certainly one way forward.
And well, we have been talking for 1 hour. Really, for me, it has been very, very interesting. We have a lot of challenge in this industry, and I'm very happy to have the possibility to hear about your experience and your ideas. And so I want just thank you. Muchas gracias, Paul. Muchas gracias, Dana. And I hope next time we meet, it will be in real territory, okay?
Yes, please.
Not
Thank
in
you.
virtual territory. Well, reality is now virtual, but it can be also territorial reality. Okay, thank you so much. Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros, muchas gracias por compartir su conocimiento con nosotros y espero pronto nos volvamos a encontrar.